Good morning everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Josh and today we are reviewing the BMW i8. Now in the not so distant past, this was deemed to be the future. And if we look at the styling, I still think it's quite futuristic, but for me this lingers somewhere between that's really cool and that's really, So I have my reservations, but let's look at the styling. The inside is not too dissimilar from a normal BMW, but there are a few quirks that remind you that you're in something a bit special. A digital dash, a single central vent, race-like bucket seats, and a button for the special doors. The outside is pretty special too. The first thing you'll notice are these really aggressive lines that let air flow over the car, but most people don't realise you have the same lines under the car. You of course have these ridiculously bright laser LEDs, a bonnet vent to let air cool the massive engine, wraparound rear LEDs, and of course floating indicators that remind you this isn't a normal car. And the lowness of the car does give it that sports car feel that you just don't get from regular cars. Another one of the special features is of course the butterfly doors, which are extremely lightweight. Now I googled what butterfly was in German because I thought it'd be funny and angry. Schmetterling, which actually sounds quite nice. I bet you didn't know I was bilingual, but one other thing I noticed about these doors is once you're in order to be able to see if you're going to open the door on someone, you have to look under the door as opposed to through the window. Let me show you. Imagine there's a car park there. Now, I'm getting close there, but I can't see, so I have to do something like this to check if the door can open. Never come across that in a car before. Pretty strange. Another thing that I thought was worth mentioning is how difficult it is to get in and out of this car. Now, I received a pretty grumpy comment from someone who said I shouldn't make comments about old people getting into low down cars. This was on my R8 video. So as with any unwanted comment, I'm going to double down on it and say this car is not for you. It's actually worse than the R8 because you have this kind of big bulkhead here. So getting in looks a bit like this. And then it does feel like a little race car cockpit though with this. It's a great driving position, very fun. But on a day-to-day practicality, I think it'd get boring quite quick. I have been reliably informed this is the best way to get in though. So, you approach the car, you sit backwards to it, you slide in over the bulk, knock your head, get in. As I said, on a day-to-day, not that practical. Another thing I really don't like about this car is the window. My S5 used to do that in the back. Now, the window only goes to there, which is not good for cruising. Although you are very low down, so if you were to cruise with your arm there, it actually has to be quite high up in the air. But I understand why manufacturers do this. There's normally a bend in the door, so there's no space for the glass to go down. But I would suggest that 95% of road users would prefer a functional window than a slightly less bent door. Just my view. Don't like that. Another thing I found quite funny is the boot space. Ready? Okay, so you think, I'm not getting much on there. But then you think, oh no, the compartment's here, and you still think, I'm not getting much in there. So space and function was perhaps not a focus, but lightness, it appears was. Look how much carbon this thing is made out of. When the official figures state that this car can do nearly 130 miles per gallon, you might be able to let slide the boot space and the windows. Just a thought. Okay, let's start up. Ooh, sounds a bit like a spaceship when it starts. Now you just pull the gear stick as if you would in a normal Beamer, and we begin. You can hear that it's deathly silent because we're just using the motors at the moment. Now, one of the things I did notice last night, which I found quite funny, you have various driving modes, Comfort and Eco Pro. They're your main two. Now, if you want to knock it to Sport, you have to knock this gear stick left. The dials change, the engine kicks in. Now, as if to remind you that you are not the key decision maker, the car, if it decides you are driving too comfortably or too economically, will knock this in a ghostly way back to the center. You don't have to touch anything, the car decides, okay? This is iRobot style. So really, you are just a vessel in a robot that decides how it's going to drive. Something that I read in the handbook last night is the car will decide whether to be on motor or engine depending on how you're driving. Now, I'm used to this in a start-stop sense. When you're stationary, a lot of new cars, the engine will cut out and it's kind of, it feels normal because you're stationary. This, however, will swap when you're on the move, which is quite unnerving, to be honest, to still have power when the engine cuts out. So, for example, you pull into a car park, the engine will cut out, but you still have power and you're still rolling. It's quite a bizarre sensation, and I've never actually been in a car that just makes that decision for you. Normally, you have to press a few buttons, but this, as I've said, is the key decision maker. You are not. If, however, you do make a decision, you can put it in Comfort or Eco Pro, which limits it to 50% power. Thankfully, when you knock it into sport mode, the engine powers in and you get a fake engine noise through the speakers. So, many a gadget, many a quirk, but the most important thing is, how does this thing drive? Now, this is the first time I'm ever going to put my foot down in an i8, so I don't really know what I'm expecting, but let's just go for it. Are we ready? Okay, that's immediate. Wow, okay, that is immediate power. Jesus. This thing, wow, this thing is quick. This thing is quick. Now, I knew that before I stepped in it because 0 to 60 takes just, well, 4.4 seconds. And you think, okay, that's a quick car, but you are rolling around with a 1.5 litre engine, so you think, is it going to be that quick? Let me get my words out. Wow. Now, you have to remember that the 1.5 litre engine only deals with the rear wheels. It's sat just behind me and only powers the rear wheels. The front wheels are powered by the electric motors. So in real terms, you have a car that has 369 bhp. And you can tell, wow, this thing is sharp, straight off the line. Now, you typically expect a little bit of turbo lag from an engine that small with a turbo that big, but the electric motors do a great job of effectively giving you instant torque as soon as you put your foot down. The turbo lag that comes isn't really noticeable because of the electric motors. You're not really expecting pin you in your seat fast, but this really is. Some very clever stuff is happening. When you're cruising, the electric motor acts as an alternator and transforms kinetic energy into electrical energy, which charges the battery. God, this thing is cool to drive. So let's do corners. God, it feels so planted. Now, I didn't really expect that because I just nearly hit a bird. I didn't really expect that because it has such skinny little tyres. I kind of thought with a lot of power you might be sliding around all over the place, but no, there's almost no body roll as you'd expect from something this flat. Instantly. Just nearly kamikaze squirrel. Better stop there. That would not have been nice, killing an animal on a road test. There is almost no body roll, and this does feel excellent to drive. I know a lot of people go on about how this isn't really a supercar, and strictly speaking, when this was new, it was £100,000. What you can get with £100,000 just roaring engine supercars compared to a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder engine with an electric motor, but this is a very impressive car. I feel this car was trying to achieve a lot of things, and I think it does that. Pretty, tick. Not ugly, tick. Great MPG, tick. Very quick, tick. It's trying to do a lot of things. Boot space, no tick. But of the things it's trying to do, I'm pretty impressed, I have to say. And that engine noise, I know it's fake, but it's so soothing, it's so tuneful. Even cruising at low speeds, this is a very nice place to be. It's one of those cars that, unlike a supercar, you can just cruise in, especially when it's electric. It's deathly quiet. but you can just cruise around in it. It doesn't want to jump forward if you don't want it to, but if you want it to, put it in sport. And there you go, I've lost my phone. There's an i3, wait for it to come past. My brother. So then, a futuristic car that is now 8 years old. I remember seeing this car and thinking, that's a great start. It wasn't finished, it wasn't fully refined, but what a fantastic start. I was kind of hoping for that with this, the i8 facelift, although there were a few facelifts. The changes weren't drastic enough. I thought there may be an i9, but there never was. I think there is a legacy with this type of car, plug-in electric hybrid with a small internal combustion engine, but I don't think it became the car it could have been. This could have been a poster car. This could have been, wow, look at that car. Look what we did in 2014, but I just feel this car is going to get consumed by the electric revolution, which is a shame because after driving it, I have fallen for it a little bit. Would I fork out 60k for it? I guess that's a question that I'll ask myself when I achieve 60k. But BMW i8,